And Mark, maybe just to understand how extensive or how many minutes can I speak? Is it fine around 3 minutes to answer? So that's if it's too long, just you can of course stop.
Yeah, that's fine. I think probably what we will do now is we'll all go on to mute and turn our screens off until the start time, because it says that you are screen sharing. Stop share. Yeah, we are now broadcasting, I think. So let's see.
By the way, nice to meet you, Marcel and Frank. We haven't seen each other. It's for the first time.
No. Hi. First time. First time session.
And already live.
So we are, it's all new for us.
Don't say me.
We have to use to that, I'm afraid, for the next months. It will be like this. We have already organized the webinar last week. That was for the first time that we were in a studio, but this is also different. Like when you are with the old panelists in a studio, it's spontaneous, it's normal, but now it's really talking to a computer.
Yes, and certainly for the jobs like Peter and myself, not meeting people in person and questions and see each other's competence and skills.
Frank, be honest. The only thing you miss is the beer afterwards.
Quite honestly, that is in stock.
Okay, I'm gonna mute them all. Morning, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to the Festival of Breakbulk. We have a number of panelists here with us this morning. This is all very new for us, and it's a challenging time at the moment, but we're very happy to be bringing everybody together to basically share, connect over this couple of days for this festival. This first session that we're running at the moment is on a Hinterland session. We'll be looking at connectivity, intermodal, and obviously how that's impacting the environment. I'll ask our first speaker of the morning, Katarine Stancova from the Port of Antwerp, to join us on video, if she will.
Good morning, everyone.
Hi, Katarina.
Hi, Mark. Good morning. I'm trying to put the video on, but if you can, yes, I cannot because the host has stopped it. If you can just, yeah, now it should work. I have started it, but get the message. The host has asked you to start my video. Yeah, now it should be fine. Yeah. Hello.
We also have with us and Marcel later and Frank Vanoutryve from Stancova, and they'll be joining us on the panel, and also Peter LaRose from Conti 7.
Morning. Morning.
Hello.
My name is Mark Rimmer, and I'm the event director for Antwerp Excel. The event that we had hoped to run this April, but unfortunately due to COVID, we've had to postpone to March next year. But we are happy to be bringing the Festival of the Breakbulk to you as some sort of a elastoplast or a cover for the current times. Just so you understand the mechanics of it all, we have a Q&A option. We also have the chat function that everybody can ask questions on. So please participate, join in, and we hope you enjoy the session. I will now just hand over, I'll stop sharing here so you can see things a bit better. I'm going to hand over now to Katarina, mainly just, I think where we can start things off is if we're just explain briefly the current situation that we have around Antwerp. I know that the congestion for around ports generally is an issue, and I think this is an area of expertise for the Port of Antwerp particularly, and might be able to shed some light for other attendees joining. But what are the current measures that you're having to work with at the moment, and the challenges that you'll face that you can share at the moment, please?
Yes, let me first explain the situation on the road regarding the road works. The aim of the extensive road constructions around Antwerp is to close the ring road around Antwerp, as it is not close ring today. And there will be even a new tunnel built under the River Scheldt. The purpose of this huge infrastructure work is to ensure smooth traffic flows around Antwerp, to have less traffic congestions and less accidents. So it's a huge project with a long-term project with efficiency gains on the long term. It's one of the biggest European investment into the road infrastructure. The works are foreseen to be finished by 2030. In order to mitigate the impact of the works to an absolute minimum, the works are spread in 5 key phases, and the works have already started on the left bank of the River Scheldt, and next year the works will start on the right bank. Now, the works on the right bank will start next year, and it is the goal to avoid any obstacles, and there will be always an alternative road foreseen in case of interruption. Now, having said that, however, we expect an impact on the road transportation, and also impact for the truck transport from neighboring countries. As a matter of fact, you must have seen it as well. There has been already a traffic jams in past weeks, and it is expected that there will be an impact on the road transport, such as delays, detours, or longer transit time. And it is therefore that we encourage all shippers and forwarders to think and to consider the alternative modes of transport, being barge transport, rail transport, short sea shipping, and if possible, then night logistics. So the message here is please be prepared and know the alternatives. And it is always a good transport mix, no? which is essential. So dare to change, rethink your supply chain, and know what the possibilities are.
Thank you. I think there's generally, I mean, obviously we've got the Green Deal that EU's passed. There's IMO 2020. There's obviously a focus on the environment, and there should be. I think that there's an opportunity here for us to probably talk about the different modes that are available, low carbon modes of transport. From your side, the other intermodal options from the port, Katarine?
Yes. I would maybe briefly mention the barge and rail connections in the first place. And in fact, the port of Antwerp has outstanding connections also with the Hinterland via regular breakbulk lines. So that's one point. Now referring to the Hinterland, breakbulk reaches and leaves the port by road, rail, short sea, and inland navigation. Let me maybe mention the rail transport. No? Concerning rail, Antwerp is a key rail hub for single wagon loads for breakbulk cargo. And actually all breakbulk terminals, they have railway access. And what is also an added value of port is that we have stuffing and stripping activities in the port when the wagons can be unloaded and the cargo put into the containers. So regarding the rail options, in fact, there are, for the shippers and forwarders, I would say 3 key possibilities or kind of rail options. The first one is, these are the mixed train towards the hinterland. These are the container shuttles to which the breakbulk can be added in the wagons. And Port of Antwerp has a very extensive network for the rail connection. So this is the first one. The second one is the classical single wagon load network, maybe known to many of you. And this ensures that the shippers can also transport conventional cargo, such as steel, paper, or other breakbulk, which cannot be containerized in the wagons by rail. And this, in fact, provides connection to many destinations in Europe. I think there are around 12,000 access points in Europe. So how does it work? Well, the wagon transport starts with feeding single wagons or wagon groups from their origin to the first collecting spots. In the next step, the wagons are assembled to a full train. And then after the transport, the wagons are distributed to their final destination. And an example is an X-Rail transport, which is a cooperation consisting of seven members, 7 operators. That's the second one. And finally, the third option is combination of conventional breakbulk with stuffing into containers in the port of Antwerp. And we see a big increase in consignment which arrive in Antwerp. And this concept is interesting because the hinterland transport is done in wagons. Then the wagons are unloaded in the port and the cargo is stuffed into the containers. So the cargo is then distributed not only to other terminals in Belgium, but also maritime overseas. So there is a combination of this local distribution with maritime. So this is also another option with rail.
Okay, thanks, Katarine. Peter, I know that Conti has obviously invested in a new rail house, and that I know from speaking to you prior to this that there are some challenges around operators, the connectivity, the challenges of moving cargo across a very complex transport network in Europe. I just wanted to get your views on it and see where you think we could be improving, what we could be doing differently, more for the environment, etc.
Yes, okay. I think 2 years ago we got the opportunity to invest in this warehousing project, and what was really attractive to us was, of course, the location, yeah, where we see that Antwerp Rail House is located at Key 472, which is in the heart of the breakbulk activities, in fact. That adding more aspects like hinterland connectivity, and now I'm talking about the three-modal connectivity, which is one, it's located very nearby the main hub, enabling these rail operators to get to have a quick return on their rolling stock, yeah, which is today really an advantage. And I think we, as a Port of Antwerp, this facilitates, of course, the support towards rail. Secondly, I think we are, like you said, we have there the stevedoring agreement with Zuid-Natie, enabling us to take receipt of the cargoes. So we are water connected. And then, of course, we think about the regular lines, we think about short sea, we think about the use of make use of the inland waterways. So as third, we are very nearby connected the main highways. So it was a pre-modal concept as from the start. Yeah, I think with the focus on rail and barge, also the aspect of eco-friendly approach is there, and anticipating on possible congestion towards the Oosterrail connection, which will last for, let's say, 10 years. This also contributed to the idea of investing in such a concept. So focusing on then what Katarine already mentioned is the connectivity towards the European hinterland, which is something, of course, which need to be developed. And I really am, how to say, grateful that there the Port of Antwerp is really trying to support this. So all these aspects, keeping in mind that we have also the Opel site, which is adjacent to the area there. Yeah, there are a lot of opportunities, and I think we get now the opportunity. There are some, how to say, ideas. So let's take advantage of it.
What would you say the main challenge is keeping people away, or shippers away from using barge transport, rail? Obviously, there is a cost incentive, and everybody's looking at their bottom line. So, why do you think people aren't taking the more environmental mode at the moment?
What you say is, if you talk about zero carbon or eco-friendly, it has a price, yeah, to be honest. Keeping in mind you have the first and the last mile, which you need to overcome. I think the incentives up to now, for example, the inland waterways, raising the bridges towards 9.10 meters, the liberalization of the railway market, it helps. But sorry to say, truck is still too cheap. At the end, a customer always looks at the price. Yeah? And then it's not always easy to convince people to change and do the mental shift to barging and to and rail, and especially to rail.
Yeah. And you see that there needs to be a, well, I don't know, we don't have any road transport specialists on right now. I'm sure that if they were on, they would be saying that their rates are, they're not making enough of a margin themselves. There's always complaints around from that side of things. So do you see it more as it needs to be an overarching kind of EU guidance, either on a tariff on high carbon modes, or is it just, there's too much competition in trucking at the moment? There are too many trucking companies out there that are prepared to lower their rates? Yeah,
I think you mentioned the two aspects. One, it's a fierce competition between the trucking companies, and especially today's when you see that everybody wants to survive. So perhaps the timing is a little bit, how to say, not very lucky there. But I think on European level, there should be a total agreement of trucking, of using, how to say, the carbon unfriendly logistic solutions. I think it should be, how to say, more monitored from out of the European standard. Yeah? And this is, of course, still a long way to go.
Yeah, we have some way to go. If I could bring Frank and Marcel in at this point, obviously North Sea Port has, an extensive network. I know that one of your, your focuses is to keep, the cargo in the water for longer through inland waterways, etc. Just to get your view on how, our shippers using this network as extensively as it could be, and what the opportunities are.
First of all, I agree with a lot that has been said, but I would love to add that it also creates an opportunity of cooperation between all parties involved. It's not only from top down that there should be regulations from the EU. We all know how slow it works. I remember the first working around the ring in Antwerp in 2001, where we started our intermodal barge cooperation between North Sea Port and the Port of Antwerp. Unfortunately, as they do so many times, they did the job so well that the trucks kept on driving on the ring in Antwerp. So it was the intermodal focus was not achieved due to, like Peter said, the truck is always very, very cheap. But it's not only cooperation between ports, but I think it's also a cooperation to be creative and innovative together with your partners, meaning rail, meaning trucking companies in first and last miles, because this is also relative. What is a first or a last mile in a deep sea port as Antwerp? In comparison to the industry or to the receivers and the big forwarders market, they cover a big geographical area. So I think as a port with the unique position as a deep sea one, as well welcomes all intermodals on the European crossroads of E17 and E40 highways. The entrance to the Paris Canal, which still has to come, and all the barges that can go from north of France till Basel. I think this unique selling position is the longer the ship is on the water, the deeper, 40, 50 kilometers already into the hinterland or vice versa. And there you can act as a hub and spoke also to our deep sea port friends, Antwerp or Rotterdam. There is really some opportunities in cooperation. For example, our intermodal project, we started together with the port authorities of Antwerp and the port community of Antwerp. As we saw, there was a lot of breakbulk coming back or stuffed into the containers. Breakbulk, stevedoring and logistics company as the Quercus is, we had to follow that trend. There was suddenly an opportunity in not having been a competitor, but as a cooperator with the Port of Antwerp to lessen the congestion on the road and to move more cargo to barges. And then is first idea I had a bit in replying to what my dear colleagues just said. Marcel, maybe you can add.
Yeah, I think more and more the economy is hydrogen instead of carbon fuels. So imagine yourself in a couple of years, it is grows and it's not anymore a matter of carbon emission, but it's more and more a matter of debottlenecking the infrastructure. Today we have over 50% of our model split is distributed by barge and short sea, 65 or so, 65%. But although that might be the least, the most friendly or the least damaging mode of transport to the environment, there is still emission, of course. But imagine yourself, everything changes to hydrogen sooner or later. Then it's still a matter of speed. Speed is of the essence, and debottlenecking the highways and the railroads and also the waterways, because we have waiting spaces in the port today as a bottleneck. We have to make a planning for that in order to avoid congestion in barges. So still optimizing between all modes of transport is the case. The truckers, they are working on becoming more and more environmental friendly, but the more and the cheaper, the most flexible they are, and the cheaper they become, they have the congestion on the roads. So there is a kind of physical restriction in terms of model split to every mode of transport, I think. But
and of course the like we also have a warehouse which has a rail inside to load or discharge the cargo. As Peter, we certainly have to add, Peter, I think the responsibility of the technical, the infrabel parts in maintenance and I don't know, the funds they have to spend on a modern and accurate, flexible suprastructure. I think there is also still a big challenge for them. So European community pushing a lot of money towards maybe barge or other solutions should certainly also focus that the railway is optimized and better working, but it's still too slow, it's still too expensive. The gap between the truck is very, very big. So you need a lot of cargo, or the single wagon one, but also this one is transshipped again, manipulated again, cost is increasing. So it's many different players in this. If we want to achieve this model as intermodal one to all ports or industries.
Peter, do you have any further thoughts on that yourself, or?
I think it's also a matter of critical mass. As from the moment you have more critical mass, the more flexible you can offer your services. Yeah. And there also, I think what Frank mentioned is of course he is fully right, mentioning that the rail infrastructure also needs to be needs to be updated. Yeah. And we have to think in cargo flows, yeah, towards the ports, yeah. As a port of Antwerp, I don't think we need to compete with Koper, for instance, because the south there will use the port of Koper because it's the most logical way, yeah. But there, if we talk about logistic and logical thinking, yeah, also rail infrastructure should follow and listen to what the logistic people tell them.
And do you think that shippers, cargo owners are currently, is it a behavioural thing? You know, they're used to moving their cargo in a certain way. Is there an education piece here? Do they have to not try before they buy, but certainly try it to experience it? I
think even if you see the container carriers today, yeah, they really want to organize or they want to boost rail and barge. Yeah, so we have the handling companies in the port, we have the rail operators, we have already some carriers. I think more and more the shippers and importers and exporters, the industry should become aware that the way how we organized our logistics, it will be over. is it not within 5 years, then it will be within 10 years. It will change completely.
That's what I meant. Be innovative and creative. There's no stop on that one. We are on a transition. I fully agree with Peter. Yeah.
And if I may, yeah, if I just may add, I think that the joint efforts are needed for several stakeholders, not only governments, but also, as we mentioned, rail operators, also the port authorities, to ensure the smooth traffic flows in the port. But I think also on the side of the shippers and forwarders. I mean, we have been talking years about it. I don't want to mention that again, but this mental shift is still needed, because we should ask ourselves a question: are we able to transport such a huge volumes by roads in 2-3 years? I don't think so. I mean, there is a huge transport increase being foreseen, and we cannot settle everything by road. So the shift to rail and barge is essential, it's necessary. And it's not always the price which is high for rail or barge compared to truck. There are definitely destinations in Europe which are very competitive and interesting, and for goods to be transported by rail and barge. That's experience what we have based on also market surveys and analysis.
From your perspective, what do you see as the key advantages from your side, from the Port of Antwerp's perspective, apart from the carbon factor, apart from the reducing in congestion? Where are there other advantages?
Well, the extensive network for rail and barges. For example, for barge, the breakbulk and the network, the breakbulks can be, in fact, they can go via Danube to reach the Black Sea. So we can, in fact, offer the breakbulk barges through whole Europe. It's extensive network. The second is the fleet, the barge fleet in size and in type. You can transport big and small volumes, high and heavy, actually everything. It's fast and reliable. So that's also an advantage. For rail transport, as Peter mentioned, it's of course the big volumes that you can transport. And many connections are getting higher frequencies, so that should also make rail more competitive. By rail, we have connection to 14 European countries, and we see that the quality of these connections is improving. So I think it's worth to definitely try for the shippers which have not yet tried to use rail or barge transport.
Okay, thank you, Katarine. I think I'd like to take this opportunity to, open things up a bit to the audience. If there are any questions, please use the chat function to share. We also have a Q&A running as well, so you can use that. While that's going on, I think maybe Peter, you could give us some views. I know that we're talking about the challenges that we face, around having to move cargo through a very complicated network in Europe. And I know that from an operator perspective, sometimes there are challenges faced from your side.
I think what we also should mention in the story of the rail is the growing importance of the dry ports and the hinterland terminals, which should be kind of platform collecting cargoes, distributing cargoes. I think we really need to attract them, and that also the seaport and the inland ports, they play really an important role, bringing the shippers and the transport together. And there I would say, please do not forget the role of the hinterland terminals. That's one. Secondly, I think if I see, and now I talk only for for the Churchill dock, where we concentrate the breakbulk cargoes on the right bank. I think the layout of the terminals, which is today, yeah, and which will be or needed to transform them in order to accommodate all the cargoes coming in with the alternative modal solutions. Yeah, we have the Opal site, which is as disposal. We have, and what we also try to develop now is an intra-port shunting, yeah, where cargo is coming in, where we do our handling, I mean stuffing and stripping of the containers, but where we can, of course, connect our terminal on the right bank with the main container terminals of the Port of Antwerp. So it's not only, how to say, one terminal, it's in fact a total makeover of infrastructure, but not only rail, but also in the ports in order to accommodate the rail and the barging and short sea.
If I could take it over to Marcel, you're obviously talking about hydrogen fuels and how hydrogen obviously is the future fuel. Do you feel that there is almost like a wait for this to happen? That the environmental question is not being, I suppose, answered collectively, because there is a view that, you know, this future fuel will come, it won't be as carbon heavy, there will not be as much impact on the environment, therefore there is not this need to shift to other modes because it's not far away. It's that like COVID forcing everybody to change dramatically in terms of communication, there isn't this seismic need to move to other modes or a requirement, plus obviously the cost side of things.
Either hydrogen or another type of fuel, really. If the cost is too high, yes, relative emission is low. There won't be a trigger to shift very soon. But we are experimenting with hydrogen on inland barges. And we are experimenting on, we are anticipating on trucks driving on the hydrogen fuel as well. Unmanned trucks on hydrofuel. But whatever, maybe it's another type of fuel later, environmental friendly. It will soon be clear in 10 years.
Yes, that's my feeling, is that there isn't this need for a seismic change at the moment, despite there being opportunity to use other modes that are more environmentally friendly. At the moment, there is no cost benefit, and so do you think that there is any chance that there would be something that we could have that would be pan-EU that could come into place that would support these modes of transport?
Maybe apart from carbon emission, there's also the sulfur rules and the other emissions in Europe, obligated by European Union, of course. But a global system, I don't foresee it, as there is a global market. I think Europe is very weak to dictate.
Katarine, Peter, Marcel, sorry, Frank, do you have any views on this? If there's any way that we could get something that is cross-EU support?
We said it's transmission. That you see, people are talking to bring back industries from the other side of the world into the globalization. And COVID learned that. We are in the first stage think, okay, let's make truck driving more expensive. On the other hand, we saw during the COVID that we were also lucky to have them. It's balancing between all these. I still think the EU should be a sort of neutral referee. But as a lot of things happen, they start on the working floor. They start with the shippers. They start with forwarders. So the cargo should is normally looking his own and cheapest way to reach the clients or other markets. But it's a big and a huge challenge, and it will be, we will earn it step by step. But it all comes back again to the cost. Maybe corporate, big global players, they also take 5% extra because they want to be green. But as we are a rather here, the industries is rather a lot of smaller industries in Belgium. They really look at costs, and then we need to be creative again. So we saw the big container carriers fighting out the sea war. This is finished. That is almost finished. There will be more mergers in the future. And now, as Peter said, they suddenly look into rail, and this is not because they are environmental friendly. This is what the battle on the land has still to be fought to have bigger shares. But it creates an opportunity for all of us. So if there is a need, an economically need suddenly, which leads also maybe to an environmental benefit. So everything goes hand in hand, and that's why it's such a huge challenge for all of us.
I remember Peter Larose, you mentioned once you have the economy of scale, the huge quantities of cargo, then you can influence, and then you are more flexible to organize your logistic chain. That's what you said. But I think a big point of influence of the European Union is to organize all modes of transport in such a way that with software, that the amount of slack in the system will be reduced, and all the infrastructure is available for many forwarders and receivers, and not only a few big, but many small, and it's possible with the software of today.
Yeah,
that's I think a point for the European Union to organize and obligate the users to use the software in order to avoid the slack in the system with railroad and barges. And then you can optimize and have a lot of gain in the system. A lot of capacity is still hidden.
If I may add, I think regarding the rail transport, the key function of the EU is mainly to harmonize the regulations, the legislation. Today, we have several, in each country, there is different legislation for rail transport. And I think it's key to harmonize it so that the train can pass the borders and go much smoother without changing of the drivers, without any other restrictions. Yep. So this is one of the, I think, key things which needs to be done, the adjustment of the regulations from the national level to be uplifted to the European level. And I think the second point is decrease of cost for infrastructure for rail. It's key. You have seen it in neighboring countries, in Germany, in Austria, the cost of rail infrastructure has been decreased. And I hope that Belgium will follow so that the costs are also lower for the users of infrastructure in Belgium.
And what do you think is currently stopping that at the moment? What's restricting those kind of changes?
Sorry, I didn't understand the question.
I was saying, what do you think is currently stopping that? The harmonization, the things that are happening in other countries? Why is it not being put into place within Belgium and Benelux?
Well, I think there are already lots of initiatives being taken. So there are projects ongoing. It's just that it takes some time. Right? It takes it's a long-term initiative. We cannot expect to be changed in from one day to another. But I think we need there to accelerate in this process. We need European Union to adjust the regulations as soon as possible.
And Peter, do you think there's, do do you agree that there is a large job to be done in relation to regulation in the EU to harmonise?
I think what Katarina mentioned about regulation, I fully agree. But as Belgium, I think we need to understand that our neighboring countries, in the European, so far rail concerned, are ahead of us. If I compare Germany or Austria or Switzerland, we still have a way to go to come to the same level. And of course, the distances in Belgium, we are a small country, we are a transit country. We have ports, and we are the gate to Europe. Sorry to say, if you see the centrality, the index, Belgium is very well placed, it's very strategic. So I think even in the whole rail concept on European level, we have a special role due to the fact that we have short distances in our country, and then I'm talking out to the connectivity to the neighboring countries. But sorry to say, we are far behind a few other countries, and first we need to bring everybody to the same level.
There's a point on the chat here that's saying that even with these other modes, maximum 14% can be routed by rail in Antwerp. Are those, is that, and therefore it's a challenge to maybe push more onto the rail infrastructure? What would you say to that, Katarina?
Well, at this moment, currently, from the all maritime traffic flows between Antwerp and Hinterland, there are indeed only 8% distributed by rail and around 36–38% by barge. We are aware of it, and it is therefore that we as a port, we have ambitious goal and we want to double the rail volumes. And we have taken structural measures to realize it, to achieve at least 15% of rail. Now, again, this can be even more. It's of course depending on the development, but let me maybe mention that as a port, we have created a daughter company, Railport, being also owned by Essentia and Alpha Port. And the goal of Railport is to ensure the smooth flows in the port, so that the last and first mile is more efficient. And on the hinterland connections, we also see a lot of positive changes and initiatives at this moment. We have new operators connecting Antwerp to the hinterland. So I think there are positive developments as well. We are connected. There are operators increasing the frequency of trains. So I think that the key message is, let's not only moan about it, let's also see the positive sides of rail, which really is a very good mode for breakbulk. So that would be message from my side. Yes, of course, we need to work on it. We need to innovate and digitalize the railway business. There must be more cooperation and so on, everything what Marcel, Peter, and you all mentioned. But I also believe that definitely for breakbulk, there is a huge network of connections. And I think it's up to the shippers and forwarders to use it and to really make the switch, and not only to book the truck, which is the most comfortable way. So it needs also a change of behavior of the shippers and forwarders.
Thanks, Katarina. Peter, we have a question from the floor for you from Krista, asking if you could give a concrete example of what you were referring to just earlier.
I think traveling in the European hinterland, you meet people, and also people from hinterland terminals. And what Katarina was mentioning, yes, there is really now a change. The Port of Antwerp really try to support the connectivity by rail towards the hinterland. But we can't do it in 1 year or 2 years. We need time. And some terminals really, they have connections to Rotterdam, to Hamburg, to Bremen. I cannot name these states, but it's unbelievable that if you are coming from, let's say, south of Germany, Austria, Switzerland, that these cargoes are going to Hamburg, yeah, shipped to destinations where Antwerp is much better placed to compete. And then I say, okay, there is still some work. And what Katarina mentioned, it is true. Now it is a mental shift, and people in the hinterland, in some countries, they think different about rail than we do. That's because I think it's due to our transit function as Belgium, yeah, that it is perhaps there is a threshold, yeah, before going over to the other alternatives.
Okay, and Frank and Marcel, do you have anything further to add on these points?
Peter is walking a bit alongside, also referring to the other players. I would suggest that more players on the railroad, the better for everyone, and that's maybe our experience in Belgium. Is to see more and flexible different service providers on our rail system. Maybe that will wake up some other players on that one. They are really performing. They go to, we see them in our terminal as well. Different players, but like mentioned on that, there is protectionism. There is every country has their own laws. Again, I go back to the EU and as a neutral referee, because there are too many local things, local politics also involved. Everybody has their port authority, everybody has a secretary and a boss. It's all 50 kilometers away from each other, and everybody is involved with the same rail operators and is looking at preferences and so on and so on. So again, I'm staying with my step-by-step theory.
And on top of that, if there are so many differences between countries in Europe in systems and regulations, and then you open up the infrastructure for free competition, then, as Peter said, you can see strange traffic flows, strange logistic chains, which are not logic. So the goal is now for Europe to harmonize all the regulations and the systems. And once we succeed in that, then you can see free competition will result in more logical
flows
and destinations, yeah. And then the most logic port will be selected, and not because of labor unions or whatever. Many traffic flows, they are blocking the hinterland, occupying a lot of space and producing a lot of damage or noise, at least, congestion, because of competition in a strange world, in a strange Europe.
On the other hand, I don't know what we are complaining about, but the Chinese succeed in bringing their trains to all ports in Europe. So maybe it's not so difficult. Maybe it's us and not the rail. I don't know.
Yeah, it's.
Indeed. Well, look, I think what we've done here today, I'd really like to thank all of our panelists for contributing, because I think what it certainly has done is made either the people who attended live or will be able to download this or watch on demand afterwards, give them the option. I think it's highlighted that there are other alternatives, certainly that we do have issues around congestion and that first mile, but there are other options on the table, and they are lower carbon options. They're better for the environment. So I think this is something that we can probably take on, a conversation that we can carry on and discuss further live Antwerp Excel this coming March. I look forward to that. I hope that we can do that. But no, I'd just like to say thank you to Katarine from the Port of Antwerp, from Marcel and from Frank. from North Sea Ports and from, sorry, I'm just got something in my throat, Stuckwatersport, and Peter from Conti 7. It's been great fun to kick off the Festival of Breakbulk, and we look forward to the further series of webinars that we have over the next couple of days. I'd also like to encourage participants, those who have logged on, to jump onto the meetings function that we have online. We, unfortunately, as an industry, as a community, we're unable to meet at the moment. We would have loved to have got together at Antwerp Excel in April, but we're unable to do so. So this we see as an opportunity for people to also try something else new, try something, a different way of meeting online, and we hope we facilitated that with our new meetings platform that we're running live at the moment. So unless there is anything else from the floor, we've also got thank you to panelists from those that are attending, so I'll pass on those thanks. But unless there's anything further to add, I will thank our panelists, and we will move on with the Festival of Breakbulk. Thank you very much for attending.
Thank you, Mark, for this opportunity. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you from all of us. Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
If there are
Ciao,
any
ciao.
questions regarding hinterland connections, just please contact us. Thank you. Bye.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Okay.